appeared by one of our delegates, Mr. Mustafa Bishya. He was preparing for his presentation, and we expect him to present today.
Hello. So, hello everyone. I'm Mustafa from Kurdistan region, the north part of Iraq. I'm so happy to be in Ukraine, to be honest, because since the day before yesterday I arrived here. Whenever I say I'm from Kurdistan, everyone knows where is Kurdistan. Nowadays I live in Hungary. Whenever I say I'm from Kurdistan, they say, oh, Kazakhstan. Well, nowadays they say, yeah, Kazakhstan is a very developed country close to Russia, so I'm from there. So, glad to be here. My talk is going to be somehow kind of like continuation of the panel. Before starting my presentation, my talk, actually I just would like to add to terminology. So when it was asked, what's peace? Peace is divided into two parts, mainly. I would like to add that terminology. We call it positive peace and negative peace. What is positive peace and what is negative peace? Negative peace is the priority to stop a war, to stop the killings, to stop any possible fight. So for example, as it was mentioned in Ukraine, or in places like Syria, Yemen, and other war-torn areas. What is positive peace, which is the second type? It comes after the negative peace. Peace itself is a long-term process, it's a never-ending process. So for example, even we need peace in Scandinavian countries, we need peace like in Germany, but what type of peace? We call it something like gender equality or equal opportunities among all the races, religions, and etc. So just I wanted to add that. So to start my speech, my colleague is going to control the PowerPoint. If I do this, means click, okay? Thank you. So let's do it. So I just start showing you some pictures. Whenever we think about conflict, what comes to our mind is violence, destruction, and some kind of image. This is an image from Syria, okay, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Anyone likes those pictures? No, right? It's ugly. Yeah, no one likes them. So unfortunately, they are as a result of violence, fighting, wars, which is kind of conflict. Okay, I'll talk about conflict in a minute. Let's move to some other pictures. Scandinavian countries. Okay, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, beautiful architecture, no destruction, right? Happiness, right? Gender equality, women, men, the same, nice. Okay, all together, nature, peaceful, right? Everyone likes those pictures? Okay, it's better. Peace is nice, it's beautiful. So there's a Chinese saying life goal and contradiction are inseparable. Conflict prevention, preventing conflict is meaningless. So we hear like preventing conflict, stopping conflict. Actually, we cannot prevent conflict. We cannot stop it. Conflict is like something in our nature. It's something very normal. Now, most probably we are going to have many conflicts between me and you, among ourselves. But the important, how we are going to transform this conflict. Are we going to fight because of our different opinions? Or we are going to transform it to something better, to peaceful, like to learn, to a peaceful debate, a knowledgeable debate. This is the important thing. Not to stop the conflict, but to process or transform the conflict, in what direction you are going to take the conflict. So, Johan Galtung, he's a Norwegian philosopher. He's named mostly the father of peace studies, says the opposite of peace is violence. The statement peace is absence of violence. So whenever you have a violence means you don't have a peace, and if there is a peace, means you don't have violence, means you avoided violence. So if you want the peace, you have to deal with the violence. It's something really important to deal with the violence. Always we have to look at the roots of the problems in order to achieve a solution if we want to achieve something, if we have a greater aim. So let's move to Johan Galtung is introducing valence triangle. It's his theory. He's just dividing valence, talking about valence. And this is the valence triangle, actually. So we always see like this type of violence which is visible. You see someone is killing someone else. You see the fight, the oral or the verbal violence. Someone is swearing. Someone is using some bad words against someone else. So this is what we see. But we cannot solve this issue if we just see what's visible, which is manifested. We have to go to the roots of the violence. And he divides violence into three types: structural violence, cultural violence, and lastly direct violence, which is the visible part that we see. The invisible part is the structural violence sense first. So, for example, the violence between two groups, okay, or the global unfairness between two countries, two religions, two ethnicity. And even he takes that further. For example, if there's an earthquake in Japan, in a developed country, how many victims we will have? But if the same earthquake happens in an African country, let's say, or less developed country, what will be the damage? Of course, it will be more and more. So he calls this structural violence, which is global unfairness. And after that, we have the second type of violence, which he names it cultural violence or symbolic violence, as Pierre Bourdieu names that. Symbolic violence or cultural violence is our attitude towards this global unfairness. What we think, what we do, how do we react. So mostly, even if we reject this type of violence, we don't resist to stop it, because we start to believe that we can do nothing. So for example, the conflict, the ongoing invisible violence between, let's say, Russia and America, we believe that this is the nature, it's natural, this conflict to continue. And of course, as a result of these two types of violence, when it starts between two groups, we cannot do anything as humanity, as cultures, as society. It will lead to a direct violence, which is a fight, it's a war. People are killed, or like, you know, the wars, which is a proxy war happening in places like Syria, Yemen, and in many other places. So let me move, like, you know, just to wrap up my talk, because I was told I have only 10 minutes. Just a few points. So I would say not for stopping conflict, just for transforming them. As I said, like, you cannot prevent conflict. It's impossible. We have conflict against ourselves, against others, even against nature. The important is how can we improve ourselves through these conflicts in order to achieve something better. Looking for similarities rather than differences, it was already like mentioned, it's very important as human beings. Of course we have to look at the differences. It's important to see how different we are in order to make our lives more colorful. But it's more important to look at the similarities, shared values as human beings, as global citizens. So we all have responsibilities to combat violence. If we combat violence, means we know how to transform the conflict in order to process into a peaceful conclusion. And peace is built, is not made. Like peace is an endless process. It's continuing. It's never-ending thing. So we have to know how to build it step by step, steadily. Then we have to continue to keep that peace. Thank you very much.